to have tried, never tried at all.
What issues confronting London right now are of most concern to you, and why?
Well, taxes, of course, and we will deal with that. But mostly it's about jobs. It's jobs. People are unemployed, underemployed. Young people that are leaving us like crazy because there's a lack of job opportunities. So if I dream about a city, of our city in the next 30 or 40 years, then we need to do a whole bunch of things very, very quickly. And what frustrates me, of course, is that we've got a lot of talent, including from the Spanish-speaking communities, Latin American communities that have come here, that with their degrees, with their knowledge, with their experience, and are frustrated because the system has held them back. They haven't been able to achieve what they were doing before. There are teachers, there are engineers, there are doctors, there are this, there are that, and yet the system has essentially held them back, has not allowed them to be and realize their full potential. Very frustrating for me when I was in Ottawa, and citizenship and immigration, very frustrating as I continue to see that there's so much more that people want to do with their lives, but unfortunately they're running into roadblocks that governments or associations put in front of them, and then there's also other things that we can essentially do to help people to train, to transition better, to essentially move them into a place where they can look after their families and themselves with dignity, with pride, and that means allowing them to not only work but to learn everything that they possibly want. And so there's all kinds of barriers. And so if I look to the city of how we're going to grow, of how we're going to create those jobs and opportunities, not only do I want more immigration, because the future of this country, believe it or not, it always has been about immigration and immigrants, but the future in the next 20 or 30, 40 years, because we are, as a country, we are getting older and older and older. And our birth rate is one of the lowest in the world. So immigration is going to be the key to our sustainability as a country and as a city too, because in 5 or 10 years, 50% of our population in London is going to be of senior age. And if our young people are leaving us because there's no opportunities, who's here to sustain our economy and our people? And besides, I believe that families ought to stay together, right? So that they can live together, work together, play together. I mean, that's the essence of a good, you have strong communities, you have strong families. With strong families, you have strong communities. So I want to make it possible for families to stay together. That means young people to stay here with them, that we're looking after our grandparents and our parents in a very good way, so that they can live in dignity independently if they can, and if they can't, that we look to the communities, partner with the communities of how they can live in retirement homes, preparing for nursing homes. I think partnerships is going to be the key to my sort of working model, my pragmatism, because government can't do it alone. So I want to work with organizations, not-for-profit, labor, business, about how do we solve those issues. Well, you partner. You partner with different people, different times. You bring the resources, the money to the table, and you solve problems that way.
Well said. Now, you told us about your successes in life and in politics. What about your biggest defeat?
Defeat. Well, I'm sure I've Well, that I didn't finish university. Not that I think no, but I hate starting things that I don't finish. And the reason why is that when I was going to university, when I was young, after I played in the band, came back to London, Ontario, went to Western. I was married and inherited 2 children, had one of my own, and it was difficult being a student, raising family, trying to play drums, raise a family, and I think at that time I was spending maybe $11 a week on groceries. I mean, it was tough. It was tough then. And we were not very, very well off as a family when we came from Italy to Timmins. I mean, my father had a great job in Italy, but he gave all that up because of me and my sisters, and for a better future. So he gave up a great future because he was a policeman to come and work in the railroads and in the ditches and in the pipes and in the roadways. Very hard job, not fit for himself but for me. And so when I look back at failures, and so if I have a failing, or where I failed, is that I didn't complete my education, and that's because I couldn't. I needed to get out to work to help my family, and then I started my own businesses. I got involved in politics. I never had enough time. So, in fact, 4 years ago, I thought when I was out of politics, if I wanted to do something and finish something that I started, I would have come back and finished the 2 or 3 credits that I need at the university in order to finish. Or the other one was that perhaps maybe I was meant to be a great musician, and I didn't stay in music, and which is a lot more pleasurable sometimes than politics, right? Yeah. In politics, sometimes you have to be a masochist, or you have to love pain. Music, I love. It doesn't cause any pain whatsoever. It's soothing. It's very nice.
Who is your hero, or why? Do you have a hero?
Yeah, well, politically it was always Pierre Trudeau, because I think he opened up Canada to Cuba, to China, to Latin America. And Pierre Trudeau, which was Prime Minister, started in 1968. Kennedy, talk about dreams and aspirations. There's a guy that wasn't a president for very long, but did he take a country and raise it up and say, look at that. I've met Mandela. I've met John Paul II 3 times, people who have been inspirational. I've met presidents, prime ministers, kings, queens, you name it. But let me tell you the story about 2 people who had more of an impression on me than any king or queen or politician. I went to Sudan. Well, 7 or 8 years ago, one of my friends, Glenn Pearson, brought me there, because what was happening there is that the women were being abducted, the men were being butchered, and the kids were being taken. And he said, Joe, you have to come and see what's happening, because we have to get these women and children back. So I went there. I was the first Canadian parliamentarian who'd gone to southern Sudan, which was in the middle of a civil war. 2 million people had already been killed. 4 million people had been displaced, all because of oil, and because they were black, and because they were poor, and nobody really cared. Jimmy Carter's convoy had been bombed a month before I went there. I was threatened not to go there, but I went there. And so when I was there and I saw this horror, I saw and shook hands with the devil. Because to see what people do to people, limbs gone, butchered, women that were raped and terrified, and young people. And yet I also saw God there, and I'll tell you where. God was in the eyes of these young kids who didn't have very much food to eat. They had maybe a cup like this a week, had witnessed what they'd seen about their fathers, had been victimized, had eyes like this and hope. And I brought astronaut food, I brought crayons, I brought balloons, and you know what they took, even though as hungry as that they were? They took the crayons and the coloring books. And they wanted to see the world, because the balloon showed the globe. Now, if that doesn't change your life and saying, look at it, in the midst of all of this horror, you look at a young 3 or 4 year old and you see hope, that sort of is a life-changing experience. The second person that changed my life in sort of way is that when I was Minister of Homelessness, and it was my job to look at and see how we can deal with homeless people, I met this person who 7 years earlier was the top doctor in the country.